Hello you, welcome to Geekism and welcome back to Tiny Glade, where we're working on our witchy, sort of cozy mage city. I mean, of course it's cozy, it's Tiny Glade, how could it not be? You'll notice that we're halfway through a build here. Well, actually, we're about a fifth of the way through a build here, but all of this was actually done on a live stream on launch day. So thank you so much if you join me for that. If you really want to go back and see this this build, the live stream is up on the channel and you can do so. We started off just kind of playing around, really, chatting about the game with the live chat and all that sort of goodness, but started with just a regular sort of medieval kind of. I wanted to build something on a bit of a mountain around with water around it, but other than that I was just kind of playing around with the game, really dropping down some features, taking a look at different stuff, and I noticed it started to get a bit of a sort of whimsical vibe. Now obviously, you know, everything you build in Tiny Glade is a little whimsical, but I just got a bit more of a sort of witchy vibe to this than some of the other stuff I built, especially because we're in the Olden, I think it's called, biome, which has, you know, got some dead trees and logs on the ground and a bit of a foggier, darker sort of colour palette to it, and yeah, it kind of got that sort of vibe for me. And then we started building out like a bit of a mage building here, a mage tower, a wizard school kind of thing, nothing Hogwartsy. I'm thinking more sort of like Unseen University or something like that, and it just kind of went from there. So in this build, the majority of what we're building is this sort of what I'm now calling the Mage Quarter. Gives me some real World of Warcraft vibes as well. The Mage Quarter from Stormwind City specifically, if that means anything to you. So most of the building is this. The start of the building just then that you saw was me just kind of like wizarding up the buildings a little bit, you know, going a little bit more sort of Diagon Alley and a little bit more Hogsmeade, and, you know, lots of overhangs and stuff, and just taking them a little bit further into that sort of whimsical nature, rather than just the more sort of classic sort of feudal Tudory type buildings is what we had going before. So leaned into that a little bit, and now really just sort of leaning into that that idea of a wizard university, a mage quarter. And the thing that I really love about these kind of things is you can just build these crazy towers and platforms out on a walkway as well. I don't know why, it just says Mage Tower to me, just says Mage Quarter to me. So we have a few of them, and with all of these little walkways connecting them together, I actually think it turns out really quite nicely. Very happy with how it comes out here. Trying to make obviously a large platform raised a little bit there. The in-game pillars that it puts in are very nice, serviceable, but I wanted something that looks a little bit more sort of grounded and weight-bearing than those. So we go back and add in separate wall pieces, and then using path we can put in the archways there as well, and I think that turns out really quite nice. Here I found on, I think it was on the Discord, that if you place two platforms very close to each other, you can have them have the pillar disappear, and it took me quite a while to do it, but there you go, there it is. I don't believe it's a feature, if I'm going to be completely honest with you, because it just was a little too finicky to pull off. Obviously one of the joys of this game, I've said it before, I'll say it a million times, is just discovering these little you know, sort of ways that the pieces work together that you maybe wouldn't think of. You know, finding those all out is really quite fun. But placing two pillars like this together didn't feel, honestly, like it was a feature to be discovered. It kind of feels like a bug, so may well go away in an update, or maybe they'll make it a feature, or maybe they'll just leave it as is. But either way, if you want to try and replicate this to give yourself a real sort of magical raised platform here, that's how you do it. You take two platforms and you basically completely overlap them as best you can, and it kind of tricks each one into thinking that the other one has its pillars there or something. Maybe I'm not too sure. I don't know. It didn't feel like I was being fair on the game. Here we're using an awesome trick about hiding windows on the platforms and then covering up with another piece meaning we can get some more stuff on them. Great for these open areas here, where otherwise there isn't really that much going on. And then here I'm just using that same method of just covering them up with another piece, just so we can get the darker stone on the top of them, but not necessarily on the sides. I don't mind a bit of darker stone here. You'll see this bit here with these flying buttresses on. I don't know, I kind of feel like maybe this city wasn't always home of wizards, and they've now sort of, I don't want to say taken over, because I don't wizards aren't the sort to command and conquer, but yeah, I feel like maybe it's a later edition, perhaps, I don't know. But here I'm just using loads of sort of reference images in my mind, and actually looking them up as well. I'm thinking about things like the Unseen University from Discworld. I'm thinking about things like Dalaran from World of Warcraft, the Mage Quarter of Stormwind from World of Warcraft, just these sort of real chunky, sort of whimsical, and what's the best way of describing it? They're all a little top heavy, I suppose. Physics doesn't really come into it too much because they're wizards. It doesn't need to. They can get away with doing some fun stuff here, playing around with the fences to create some slightly more interesting looking supports. It's very tricky. I've seen some really incredible stuff on that people have made with fences. You can almost, pretty much make any structure you like with them. I've seen people make benches and market stalls and what have you. They look really good. It looks like it takes a little while to do, but I don't think it's beyond me. I think the problem here is that we're building the whole thing on flat roofs, using them as paths, and that's causing a problem with fencing, because fencing and walls both rely on the terrain below them to sort of gain their height from. So it's a little funky to use in this map, but obviously I'm already thinking about that map number 2, thinking about what our next sort of build is, because I'm just absolutely having a blast. Oh, Juliet balconies. I'd not seen these before. These beautiful little doors with balconies on them. That was a good friend of mine, John Mass Bandit, who I will put a link to in the description, because he's also been playing this a lot, and I'm pretty sure he has videos coming soon. Again, another sort of awesome creative sim player, so you should go and check him out. He showed me those little doorways, and basically it's adding a door to the bottom of a building that has nothing below it, and it generates that, what we call a Juliet balcony, a little sort of door with a balcony on it, with a balcony railing on it, so you can't really step out onto it, but it just means you can open it up, let some air into the place. A lot of European apartments have them if they don't have a proper balcony. They're very cute. Here I really wanted this little spot here, and I was like, I just want this to be a dark little alleyway, and I don't think you can do it just using the building pieces. I think you have to sort of take these walls in, make paths with them, and then add this on top of them, and it creates this great looking little sort of dingy dark alleyway that we'll pop a light in later on. It just looks very mysterious and very inviting. Perhaps isn't the right word, because I feel like it would be the sort of place where ne'er-do-wells would be. How often do they do well? Nah, they ne'er do well. And but I just like the idea of it, so much so that it kind of gave me inspiration for the next part of this. The build, which will be the next episode of this series, is going to be kind of a sort of, just that, like a dingy little alleyway, like we have here. Perhaps the good wizards, perhaps these are the ones that try and learn magic and learn to live well with the magic and use it for the greater good. But also in this wizarding city, this wizard and witch city, there are those that use magic for their own gains, perhaps. And I think a little area where you perhaps don't go if you're a young wizard just getting into it and you're told to avoid, because it's a sort of place where you can get hold of ingredients that shouldn't be bought, things, unicorn horns and what have you, I don't know. And I think that would be really good. So there I'm thinking about what's the Harry Potter one. I'm not really up on my Harry Potter stuff, to be honest with you. I was never really a fan growing up, and I never really got into it as I got older. But there's a naughty wizards bit of Diagon Alley, and I can't remember for the life of me what it's called, but that's what I'm kind of thinking of, the sort of the dingy streets, the very thin streets with the real heavy overhanging houses. That's basically what I want to do as the next part of this build. I think overall the city's almost built into sort of 4 parts. It's kind of crazy how much you can just really get into this this build, to be honest with you, the size that we got working with. I hear a lot of people saying that the map is too small. I don't think it is. I think if this map is too small, then your scale is too big, I think. And perhaps years of fighting the scale of Planet Coaster has helped me build a little tighter, a little leaner, perhaps. I don't know, because I feel like I'm getting quite a lot in here, to be honest with you, for the size of it. And it's all about layering. And like I talked about in my tutorial, that I imagine a lot of you have seen, and I think has brought people to the channel. So if this is your first sort of non-tutorial video you're watching of mine, then welcome. Thank you so much. I hope you're enjoying yourself here. Yeah, if you'll see in the tutorial that I talked a lot about layering, because I really do feel like that is how you get the most out of this game, is just by placing stuff over it and over and over and over itself. Like here you see this like 6 buildings here, just to give us 4 little steps down to that alleyway, and then here we're going to chop up this wall. You can be a little bit more generous with the height differences if you chop them all up here. It's still very higgledy-piggledy at the top, but I don't mind that. I'm just going to lean into the sort of slightly rustic nature of it, as at some point obviously we do want to end the city and have it go down into the cliffside. I think on the other side of this build, where the bridge is there, a lot of people have told me that kind of went a little bit viral, that bridge on Facebook. A lot of people told me that looks like a Hogwarts bridge, and that's cool. I didn't know it did. It certainly wasn't in my mind when I was building it, but it doesn't surprise me, I guess, because that's definitely the sort of look, the vibe I'm going for, is witches and wizards and what have you. And so yeah, apparently it looks like a bridge in Hogwarts, so that's cool. Like I say, it wasn't meant to, but that's fine that it does. But over that side, again, I feel like I want to try and open the build up a little bit, not have it just go straight into the city, but instead maybe use some of that natural terrain and natural pathwork to bring in some just slightly more rustic looking buildings. It's going to be tough because the space is a little tight if you really want to make the most of it in this kind of city build. But I'm thinking as it comes into that area, I would like a tavern. I think so, a big tavern, and then the tavern, the side of the tavern, the path goes down into that sort of slightly spookier and grimier and more dangerous area of the city, which is going to be the next episode. And then maybe a little bit more, if we can fit it in, some sort of churchy type building might work. I don't know. I think originally I wanted the sort of centerpiece of the build to be a church, because I did sort of have it down as just a sort of classic medieval type city, maybe a little later than medieval, but that's sort of an old-fashioned city. But now it's turned into this more whimsical, witchy and wizardy city. Then maybe a church isn't the right thing, because usually in fantasy works, the magic world and the religion world is usually relatively separate. I feel all the ones I can think of, it's usually the magic side of thing, the wizards and the witches, they're almost sort of shown as the scientists of the world, and in the real world, hey, you have that sort of dichotomy between science and religion. I feel like in fantasy worlds you very often have the difference between sort of the people who are able to control and wield magic, and those that gain power through prayer, the paladins and the priests of the fantasy world. So I don't know, maybe there's a bit of an odds there. I don't know. Am I thinking too much about this? Perhaps. One of the interesting things I find with this game is that a lot of people comment saying, it would be really great if there was people wandering around, or if we could place down NPCs or what have you. And I actually don't think it would. And I don't really have a reason why, honestly. Of course, if they could add it to the game, and if I didn't like it, I could just ignore it, and it's there for the people who do want it. But personally, it's not the sort of thing that I'm looking for from the game. I find myself generating my own narrative as I build, and I wonder if people walking around would not necessarily fit with that. Also, I imagine the pathing would be a nightmare. I think people, again, a lot. I've seen a lot of comments that are like, imagine this building system for X game, Y game, Z game, and I'm not sure it would work, because I think the reason you can be so open and procedural with this building system is because exactly that, because it's the only core system of the game. There aren't people wandering around, having jobs to do, having to collect wheat and sell sausage or whatever else you wish for, you know. And yeah, I think the reason why we can use the roofs over and over again to make steps and to make paths like we're doing here is because there's no sort of people wandering around. Yes, there are the sheep, but the sheep just potter about on the grass, and I don't know really what happens when the whole grass is covered, like it will be for the most part here. Perhaps the sheep just find their way down to the edges of the map and potter about there instead. Birds as well. Again, they're able to just, it's like a simple, not simple, but like a ray casted thing. They find a spot, fly to it, and then fly off again, I suppose. And that's much more different from sort of having the game say, yes, this building is a bakery, or this building is a butcher or a blacksmith or what have you, and then have people interact with that in any way. So I don't know, who knows what the future of the game looks like. I would like to place down a few pieces individually, and I'd like a duplicate button. I think after that anything else goes as a bonus. But here's a look at the final part of this build. I'm really happy with this. I think it looks, well, it does what it says in the tin. It looks to me like a Mage Quarter, like the sort of place where wizards would get up to no good and just get themselves into a lot of bother. Here is the space that we're going to be working into next, I think. How I tie this area into that sort of darker area, I'm not too sure yet, but hopefully some inspiration will strike once I get back into the game. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. If you're new here, you can drop a subscribe. There's going to be lots more Tiny Glade on the channel and lots of other sort of creative simulation games as well. Planet Coaster 2 is going to be big for us in a few weeks, where we're actually building a sort of fantasy style theme park, which will hopefully look a little bit like this. I'm using this almost like as a mood board, really, in a lot of ways for Meanderville. So exciting stuff there as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you've enjoyed it. Until the next one, be good.